What has been seen cannot be unseen, and the world can now see exactly what European values really are. 200 days of Israel systematically wiping Gaza from the earth, 505 bombs a day, 21 an hour, doctors executed, mass graves in hospitals, journalists murdered, and all the while with not just the silence, but the active complicity of the European Union. The European Union who flew the flag of the oppressor from day one, whose countries axed the funding to a starving Palestinian population despite any evidence of any wrongdoing from anyone against UNRWA, who increased the flow of weapons to Israel tenfold since they started a genocide, weapons to slaughter Palestinians. So keep your hand-wringing and your crocodile tears. It couldn't have happened without your complicity. It's continuing now because of it. European values, same as it always was. Murder and colonialists, you'll never be forgotten.
Over 6 months and more than 100,000 casualties in Gaza, and now you want to talk about an EU response. The EU response is to funnel weapons to the genocidal apartheid regime, provide diplomatic cover for their crimes and cry crocodile tears for the massacred children, while defending an occupying power's non-existent right to attack the people of the land they occupy. With Russia, you all remembered how to apply international law and more. It extended to Russian novelists, dog shows, any sport you can imagine. But as Israel murders more children than in any global conflict in all of it in the last 5 years, you couldn't even muster one sanction. Sadly, settler colonialism, apartheid and genocide are integral to the order that built and sustains the EU.
We can see today that the crushing of Gaza is an attempt by the Israeli regime to obliterate the past, present and future of the Palestinian people now. We need accountability and we need responsibility. The Western powers have to make up their mind. Are they going to continue to support a settler colonial project that they began and abandon international law, or are we going to a different place?
Aujourd'hui, à Gaza, tous les jours, on découvre des charniers, des fosses communes, qui sont le symbole de tout génocide. Des centaines de corps, parfois en uniforme médical, parfois apparemment menottés, exécutés de manière sommaire. On voit des images d'enfants déchiquetés autour d'un baby-foot. Et que fait l'Union européenne par rapport à ça? Il y a des collègues ici qui ont le courage de soutenir Israël. Franchement, ayez honte, rentrez chez vous et ne sortez plus. Mais surtout l'Union européenne, que fait-elle? Elle a promis des millions additionnels à Israël. Elle n'a pas imposé d'embargo sur les armes. Pourtant, elle peut le faire, elle peut le faire, parce que les dernières années, on a imposé des embargos, des sanctions militaires à la Biélorussie, à la République centrafricaine, à la Chine, à l'Iran, à la Libye, au Myanmar, à la Corée du Nord, à la Russie, à la Somalie, au Soudan du Sud, à la Syrie, au Venezuela, à la Turquie, au Yémen, au Zimbabwe. Mais Israël, non, eux, ils sont immunisés. Ils sont immunisés pourquoi? Parce que leur projet colonial est soutenu par l'impérialisme européen. Il faut le dire, dans les faits, avec des armes, avec des millions. Et c'est pour ça que le massacre des Palestiniens ne serait pas possible sans la complicité européenne continue.
Well, this report has the audacity to claim that the EU always seeks to reduce the risk of escalation. No, it doesn't. We are witnessing the collapse of the post-war system instigated by the US and Europe, all to shield Israel, our outpost, from consequences. It's a rogue state vested in ensuring instability in the region and US geopolitical goals. In the last month, it's bombed Palestine, Lebanon, Egypt, Syria, all the while claiming it's the victim. It's occupied parts of these countries and bombed them so often that we don't even generally give it a mention. They're doing everything they can. Desperate acts of aggression to provoke a wider conflict with Lebanon, with Iran, with anybody, to draw in the US, to save them from the consequences of their own actions. Illegal, unprovoked, unjustified airstrikes on Yemen. Clearly you couldn't care less about peace in Yemen if you're standing by and seeing civilians being bombed in Yemeni cities who've had nothing got to do with this. 2 weeks ago, Israel bombs Iran's embassy in Syria, an act of aggression against two states, the UN Charter and the Vienna Conventions. Not only no condemnation, but defence of Israel against retaliation. The US has never respected international law. It was always one law for their friends and another for everybody else. Lawless, barbarous acts to inflame the region, when the truth is that the EU has been seriously active, not in preventative diplomacy, but in preventing diplomacy. But after 6 months of throwing international law on the bonfire in Gaza, something is broken. We are in freefall. The very same international law that a horrified world has watched being trampled into the ruins of Gaza, while the EU hands Israel more weapons and cheers on the genocide. They are the ones who have enabled the continuation of Israeli terror. Without them, it would already be over. Strikes on hospitals, normalised. Famine as a weapon of war, normalised. All with impunity. You can't even call for it to stop. You can't even call for a ceasefire. Well, of course you can't, because these crimes against humanity are being carried out with your weapons, in your name, when you stood with Israel a month ago and you said you'd stand with them now and in the days to come. So don't come in here trying to wipe the blood off with belated concern. It's over. The EU has no moral authority. If you want to sort the situation out, end the genocide,